All right, Lizzie, thank you for joining us on Simper Says today.
Thanks so much for having me, George. I was looking forward to this, so
Yeah,
I'm
same here,
honored to
mate.
be a guest.
It's great having you, mate. Your current role, which is what we always start with, is the Global Go-to-Market Sales Strategy Lead for Azure Infrastructure SMC, Small, Medium, Corporate at Microsoft. What I want to do is, the first question I always ask everybody is, let's go back to when you were a young kid, young child. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, what did I want to be when I grew up? So my mum was an aerospace engineer, and so was my grandmother. So that was the first thing I wanted to do was to be an aerospace engineer. Um, and then it became, as a child, I think as you pick up more interest, it just became quite random. So I wanted to be a vet at one stage. So I did in Australia we've got I think year 10, you have a vocational placement. So I did that at the local vet, and I I think 5 minutes in, I was invited to go into a surgery, and I realized that I couldn't stand the sight of blood. So that very quickly that very quickly changed. And then from there, I was really interested in journalism, uh, learning about people's stories and sharing sort of what was happening in the world. So I kind of followed down that path at university.
That's cool. So when and just double checking, so you did a Bachelor of Arts, Media Communications, Marketing, Media, everything. All of these titles are like massive, man. Marketing, Media, and Communications at Uni Sydney. So when you decided, I guess when you're in high school, you wanted to take that on. It sounds like you had a few ideas, but you didn't quite know what you wanted to do yet. At that point, you just had some interest.
Yeah, I knew that I was always interested in sort of telling people stories and learning about. I was very curious about the world, and so I thought journalism would be a good way to do that. I didn't know where that would lead me, but I sort of went into college very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I thought that, like if this doesn't work out, I can always transfer, but yeah, didn't go in having a plan at all.
Yeah, cool. It sounds like most people, right, when they start university. I think I initially wanted to do something in tourism. Applied for about what was Ballarat University back then twice. Didn't get into what I wanted to at University or Victoria University, and then I took a IT university degree, and I haven't really looked back since then. Um, so it's interesting what we think when we're coming out of high school. Uh, Before we move on to sort of your first couple of roles, did you do anything as a teenager? Did you work anywhere, or was it just purely concentrating on study?
Yeah, so my first job was a bakery assistant. So in Australia, you could get your first job when you were 14 and 9 months, and I think I was 14 and 6 months, and I was like, I'm ready to start to start my career, my job in the workforce. And so I remember printing out resumes that honestly, the resumes didn't have very much on them. It was like I came first in English, and like I did these creative subjects, and then I was swimming, like all of these things that weren't very relevant to a job in hospitality. But I remember getting my mum to print them out and then handing them out at the local shops. And I think the local bakery saw this very keen, eager young girl, and I think they felt sorry for me, and so they gave me a job. So my first job, George, was a bakery assistant, and I learned a lot from that job. I learned the importance of hard work. Woke up very early. I remember waking up at 6 a.m. every day, working until 8:30, and then walking to school, and then doing the afternoon and weekend shifts as well. I was paid $7 an hour, and I remember at the end of that week, um, getting getting my pay, and felt, I don't know, just felt the sense of independence and being able to go to the local mall and buy sort of whatever I wanted. So it was part of yeah, I think wanting to contribute and then also making some money.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then obviously the waking up early really came through into to work even to today,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good
that's
example
carry
of it.
through.
Yeah, that character building stuff. And then you had some pretty cool jobs, and I can't remember. Maybe you'll have to help me understand whether this was part of university or post university. You worked at Calvin Klein, at Ferrari, which was pretty cool. You were you're also vice president of Young Entrepreneur Society at uni, and then also at Westpac for a period of time. So, just take me through that. Was that at a uni? Was it co-op? Was it just contract work post that?
So yeah, so those roles were really during my university days. I was very keen. I had just started university. I was very keen to understand how things practically worked. I was kind of a little bit frustrated with just learning the theory side of things, and I really wanted to get, I guess, into the workforce and start learning and contributing and learning things practically. So yeah, started. I think my first internship was in Calvin Klein, and Calvin Klein was fascinating to work for because it was very consumer, it was very digitally savvy, and it was also an iconic brand. And so I learned a lot about how they were stewards of the Calvin Klein brand and how all of the different pieces from communications, marketing, PR, kind of product development came together. So learned a lot at Calvin Klein. So I did that sort of part time during university. And then from there, a professor mentioned that there was an opening at Ferrari and would I be interested? And the funny thing was I was still on my Ps. So for those who aren't from Australia, the Ps are your provisional license. So I was on my P's working at a Ferrari, which was kind of ironic. But that was a totally different experience. You know, Ferrari's very, again, they were stewards of their brand, but it was very much around luxury and brand, instilling the sense of brand loyalty and um, creating these immersive premium experiences. So that was yeah, learned a lot about kind of brand marketing, positioning, and at the time they were wanting to access the Asia market, so understanding how they sort of targeted um, a new demographic. So that was working at Ferrari, and then from there, I had done a few stints in marketing, and I decided that I thought I should do something more quote unquote technically serious, and so I wanted to see what it was like working at a commercial bank. So I joined as a business associate in the Westpac team. So it was based on the team was called focused on counterterrorism finance. So that was a very different shift from working at Ferrari and Calvin Klein. But yeah, I working in banking was interesting. I think there was a lot of volume in, the transactions that we're dealing with, but there wasn't a lot of velocity. And I realized that from those experiences, I wanted to work at a place that was, I guess, more fast-paced, where it was innovating, and served a broader purpose. Um, so yeah, that was kind of the sort of the short term part-time work that I did during university, mostly just to get out there and start actually learning how things happen practically.
Which is really good. It's a good. It's also a good example for those out there who haven't had an opportunity to do any type of work. I think it's really important to get out there, even if it's small opportunities. Doesn't matter. I don't think it matters if you get paid or not. If it's a small opportunity to work somewhere for a short period of time, long period of time, whether you're a teenager or whether you're at university, those those experiences you get in some of those early years, I think, are extremely important to give you opportunity for the types of jobs you want to get later on, which is great. It's good to hear. Okay, so then you had, I guess, what would have been your first opportunity at where you joined Microsoft, and the first role you had, and you've had quite a few roles. I always say you've got such a storied career for somebody who's, I think, quite early in her own career. But was that like one of the, I can't remember the names of the roles. Was that a role similar to the ones where it was based on early entry university students at Microsoft, or was it an opportunity that just came up where it was just a job role itself?
Yeah, so I joined Microsoft almost 9 years ago, which is kind of wild. I remember when I started and I was looking, they have sort of annual, I guess monthly town halls, and they have congratulate people on their 5 year, 10 year, 15 year, 20 year anniversaries. And I was like, gosh, 10 years is such a long time, but I'm a year away from that now, which is kind of time flies. Yeah, and so I joined as I think what they called the MARC program at the time, so Microsoft Academy of College Hires. I think they've rebranded it since then, and I joined in the education team as an intern. So that was a wonderful kind of entry point into Microsoft because I was working with schools and universities and teachers, and I was kind of in that space still myself in my last year of university. So it was very cool going out and engaging in the community and putting um, technology in the hands of teachers on how they can teach STEM subjects more effectively, how they can save more time just through um, efficiencies that you get from modern workplace suite. So that was good fun. And then I got a return offer to join the cloud marketing team. Um, that's actually where we met, George, which is yeah, like 8 years ago. So I was tasked with leading the Cloud Skills Initiative for Australia, and I think it's well documented that there is a digital skills shortage, and particularly in cybersecurity and data and AI and cloud in general. And we sort of made a big investment in upskilling our customers and partners to um, yeah learn more about these technologies so they can help um, I guess innovate and modernize their own organization. So that was a lot of fun. I think leading a virtual team of people from all different backgrounds. We worked with events people and trainers like yourself, and people on the global team, and people marketing. So I think that was an awesome experience in seeing how you could take something from 0 to 1. Like at the time, the skilling program wasn't as evolved and built out as it is now, and so it was very cool to kind of build that, test it, scale it, and that eventually became a blueprint for how Microsoft skilled customers and partners globally. So yeah, did that, and then joined the Azure Business Group. So the Azure Business Group is kind of responsible for the end-to-end go-to-market strategy in Australia. So I was tasked with leading Azure customer acquisition and the mid-market segment. And that was, yeah, learned a lot in that role as well around how do we acquire customers, retain them, how do we prevent churn, what programs and incentives do we need to get customers to get value out of our platform. And again, worked with the global team on any engineering requirements that we needed. So yeah, that was a wonderful kind of experience and learning the end-to-end view of things. And then in that role, I started interacting a lot more with our customers, and I kind of always felt one step removed from customers, and I wanted to see what it was like kind of working side by side with our customers. So joined our cloud specialist team and led the financial services vertical. So I was working with banks and superannuation funds, fintechs, a real range of customers. There are some customers on the bleeding edge of using um, cloud infrastructure, AI, analytics, and there were some real laggards who you just couldn't get off premises, off on premises. So it was a real spectrum. But yeah, I loved it. I loved it, especially when customers kind of brought you in and you kind of felt as part of their extended team. And took the time to sort of take you through their vision and what they were trying to achieve. And I think being in the cloud specialist team is a very, I think, unique opportunity to influence not only within your own organization, but in a customs organization as well. So yeah, that was what I was doing prior to this role.
So, and I remember talking to you about this before you took on that. I think it was the cloud and security specialist, um, where you definitely had a desire and a want to get to the US at some point to work potentially out of Seattle. So take me through in your mind, were a lot of these choices that you made conscious as in strategic, or I think in 3 years time I want to be here or I want to be there? I know in your mind when I remember discussing it with you, you wanted different types of experiences like you just explained, but was it more for the experience when you the US thing, was it more to experience working directly in the United States, or was it just to be where we have our in Redmond for the coolness of it, which is what I remember I wanted to do at one point? What was your thoughts behind it, and then take us through as a second part of that question, the challenges, more so for those who potentially want to move to a different country. What are the challenges that you've had to overcome, and what's some of the advice that you would give others who might be moving soon to a different country? Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a great question, George. I I think I'd always wanted to live and work abroad, and I kind of got to a point where I was like, oh, I still haven't done it yet. Um, and I was having this a career conversation with a mentor, and I was like, I'm coming up to 8 years, and I've done, I feel very fortunate to have had, worked in across the business in a variety of different roles. But I think you feel it in your gut when you feel like, oh, I think I'm ready for a new challenge, or I'm ready to learn something new. And she was very supportive of moving overseas, and she was like, maybe it's time for you to take what you've learned and apply it to a role on the other side. And the global team are always looking for people who've worked in the areas, and they've seen the customer and partner pain points. So yeah, we had that conversation maybe about a year out from when I officially made the move. A lot of it, as you know, in Microsoft comes down to timing and roles opening up. So that kind of planted a seed, and she introduced me to a few people on the US side. And once there was a job that actually opened, it moved surprisingly fast. So yeah, I remember signing the offer actually this time last year. So it's yeah, time flies. It's already been a year.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what were some of the challenges of moving to the US? And I know the answer. We already talked about this when I was over in Seattle, but for the audience members, what were some of the challenges you faced actually moving to the US, and things you didn't think about while you were going over there?
Yeah, I just remember being physically exhausted for 2 months. So I think don't underestimate the how much, I guess, mental and emotional energy it takes to move. Um, there's definitely, I think, the personal side of leaving your family and your friends, which is quite sad. Um, you kind of, I think that support network, sometimes you don't realize you have it until you uproot yourself to a completely different environment. So that was challenging. I think getting used to the American banking system, learning all the ins and outs of the 401k, the IRS, a new tax system, getting your social security number, like setting up a new bank account, like all of those things, like your infrastructure that you had, like you have to kind of start again. Um, but then also just finding a new community and starting a new job. Like I think there's a lot of newness in those first few months. So I just remember um, kind of coaching myself and being like, okay, give yourself grace. You're in a new country. Like it will take time to feel settled. And it probably took about 6 months until I properly felt settled. But yeah, now sort of Seattle feels like home. But those first few months I felt like I had a never-ending to-do list. You had like 9 to 5 and then a 5 to 9 of just the admin that you had to do around moving and the life admin. So that was definitely challenging, but I think at the same time, it's also just such a fun, exciting thing to kind of start life in a new city, in a new country, and kind of make the most of what the US has to offer. And um, yeah, I think it's I got advice early on that don't try and make Seattle Sydney because they're very different cities, but kind of really embrace what it uniquely has to offer. And like from a work perspective, it's amazing to be closer to the product teams, engineering teams, getting a global viewpoint on emerging trends, but then also um, making the most of what Washington has to offer, which is the mountains and the hiking and the skiing. So um, yeah, it's finding a new community and new sort of rituals.
That's cool. Yeah, I can imagine it's exciting, and it does sound exhausting at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
um, before we get into some more of the serious stuff, tell me through some of the work you've done with some of the young underprivileged girls. And I see a lot of stuff that you do, which is really cool. That you post on LinkedIn as well. Just take me through how you sort of got involved in that and what your goals are from that. Because what I like to talk to people about is your career isn't just what you do every day at work. Your career is about what you want to do, whether it's hobbies you want to grow, whether it's things you want to do on the side. So, or philanthropy, in one way or another. So, take me through that.
Yeah, I it's it's something that means a lot to me. I think there's a quote that's like the purpose of life is a life of purpose, and I think that too much is given, much is also expected. I think we like I feel strongly about sort of paying it forward to other people, um, yeah, who are in less privileged positions can benefit. And so um the like I think at the core of it is we have a significant underrepresentation of women and girls in the tech industry. I think it's less than 30% overall. And I think as you go to executive levels, and then if you include things around diversity, and even if you look at sort of um, women who are from different cultural backgrounds, like that number gets less and less. Um, and what's interesting is after sort of spending a lot of time with schools and nonprofits, there's really kind of a dropping point in high schools. And so from it's usually by year 9 or year 10, girls decide if STEM is for them or not. And a lot of it's because they see a class, a computing class that's full of boys, and they're like, oh, that's not for me. Or they're not encouraged to go pursue a future in the STEM or tech industry. And a lot of it's also based on stereotypes as well. So um, I and the thing is, like, girls, like, having worked with these girls, they bring such a unique perspective. And like, what I say to them is, like, at the crux of it, it's being curious and being creative and solving problems. Like, um, that's what we need to keep building and innovating. Um, and so when you put it in that lens, they're like, oh, I'm really good at art. I'm really good at making music, or I'm really good at, building XYZ. And I'm like, well, all of those are real, like, transferable skills, the tech industry. So I think once you reframe it in that way, that's what gets a lot of them interested. So yeah, when I was in Australia, we built a program called the Girls in AI program, and so we called it sort of Microsoft Mondays. So every Monday we would have a different topic where girls could learn how to code an app or make music with AI or build their own build their own games, and they just came up. They learnt so quickly. And so it was cool to kind of have a community of girls virtually and create a routine for them where they would sort of see other girls who are just like them. Um, and so I still get notes from girls in that program going like, I'm so thankful that, that program existed. So that was great. And then the other piece was I wanted to do something in my own backyard. So I worked with the principal of my old high school, and said, hey, like I'd be very happy to sponsor a girls in tech program and speak to the sort of the year 10 girls because that's when they were choosing their subjects. We kind of wanted to get them before they chose the subjects and said, hey, like I'd be very happy to come speak to them and like share more about what a career in tech looks like. And so we had established an inaugural Girls in Tech award, and invited those who applied to the Microsoft Innovation Center. And so they got to actually play and feel and see sort of the applications of technology. And it's very cool. Like I had girls come up to me and say, like, "Oh, I didn't consider a career in cybersecurity, or I didn't consider a career in programming," but from that experience, they chose a different trajectory. So, um, yeah, it's not to say that every girl has to consider, but it's giving them the knowledge to make a decision if that is of something that is something of interest to them.
That's awesome, mate. I love hearing that. It's funny when you were talking about the girls thinking that they shouldn't do IT. I remember doing I did coding for, I can't remember what it would be called. It was like the Minecraft coding and all this stuff when my kids were in primary school. And I did it for a couple of years, and then they brought in a third party who did a lot of the work. And I remember this girl, she was awesome. She'd come in every week. Her name was Maddie, and one week she didn't come in, and then the next week she came in, and I said, "Hey, how's it going? How are the things going?" I said, "Oh, where were you last week?" And she said her friends. She had two friends, and they both said to her, "What are you doing going to the coding class? That's not for girls." And my heart sank when um,
Yeah.
she said that. I said, "Well, what do you think? Do you like it? Do you think it's for girls or boys or whoever wants to come?" And she goes, "Yeah, why not?" And me asking her the question back, I think, was a good thing. So it's sad in a way that some girls think in that way. And it's awesome that you're doing that. I actually did see her a couple of years later. It was really sort of funny and awkward because she was a teenager then, and she saw me and she was walking with her dad, and she said, "George, hi, how are you?" And I said, "Hi, Maddie, how you going?" And I looked at her dad and said, "I probably should explain why your daughter knows me." And she was still interested in IT then. I don't know what she's
Oh,
done
that's
since
great.
then,
That's
but it was
awesome.
actually good to hear. So,
Yeah,
so
well,
it
that
doesn't
still
matter.
happens. Is like
Yeah.
coding is for boys. That mentality still exists, which is kind of crazy that it's 2025.
Yeah.
And a lot of girls who join those classes, they're in a class, they may be two girls out of a class of 30, and what I hear often is they'll usually drop out because they get made fun of or it's not a supportive environment. So, yeah, good on you for supporting her, George.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was fun, actually. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun doing coding with those kids. Half the kids, some of them would be just playing Minecraft instead of coding, but you got to let them have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get to the next question, which is going to be about highlights, I have to do a humble brag on your behalf. For those who aren't part of Microsoft, we have this little thing called a Platinum Award. Now, a Platinum Award is a very prestigious award, and look, Lizzie's being very humble right now. A super prestigious award that very few people ever get an opportunity to be nominated for, and very few people ever win this award. And our Lizzie here has won it not once, but twice. um, so my question to you, Lizzie, is, and that's me just saying I'm very proud of you. You also, part of that is you actually get to meet Satya Nadella. So tell us, what was that like, man? What was it like meeting one of only three Microsoft CEOs?
It was very cool. It was very surreal. Very surreal. I remember, I think we had the awards kind of ceremony, and I ended up standing right next to him, which was another coincidence. And it was the day after the India and Australia, I think, cricket test match, and India had won. So I asked him about that, and he was very happy about that. Um, but yeah, no, he was just um, very humble, very personable, like what everything that I kind of expected meeting Satya. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Cool experience. So give us, actually, before we get into that, let's forgot wanted to ask you another question. So I've got specific values that I follow throughout my career. I need to have passion for what I'm doing. I need to have some sort of purpose, which sounds similar to you. and I have to help others as part of what I do, which is why I've always sort of moved towards education. Um, what do you think your career values are that have guided you so far in your lifetime?
Yeah, and I think firstly, like those values seem very true to you, George, having known you, so love that. I have I always refer back to I call them the three C's, and they all start with a C by coincidence. The first one is curiosity, so just a very curious person, and I think that that is sort of instilled in you, sort of growing up in a family of engineers. I yeah was always kind of encouraged to be curious about the world, to ask questions, to yeah, to enjoy learning. I remember in my holidays, I would be with my grandfather, and we would sort of take a TV apart and try to put it back together. Like that's the kind of um yeah, that's just what we kind of got up to. So and I think that over time has extended to curiosity and being curious about people, like understanding what motivates them, what makes them tick. um, I think at Microsoft, they call it sort of influencing. Like there's very few, unless you're a people manager, you're often having to work with other teams, and very different teams have different goals. And so I think that's served me well in terms of, understanding what success looks like for them, and how to align what you're trying to achieve with what they're trying to achieve as well. Um, so yeah, curiosity is one. I'd say courage. And courage is, I think, the courage to do hard things and being okay if it fails, the courage to test and learn. Um, and yeah, the resilience piece comes as part of it. Like even just an example of that is, moving to the States, right? Like I told myself, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always move back. But I think the courage to be uncomfortable and try something new. Yeah, that's a big one for me. And then the third piece is, I think similar to yours, compassion. So I think of that as helping others as well. Um, and I lost my mother to ovarian cancer when I was 22 years old, and that was probably and still the hardest thing that I've ever gone through. But it taught me, I kind of made me realize that life is really short, and it kind of made me live life backwards in a way. It's like life is short, and if I was at the end, like what would I want to be known for and be remembered by? And so it's, I think, compassion for others and paying it forward, whether it's with the girls in tech work or just even just showing up for the people that you work with every day. Like how do you support them um to help them and help support them to be successful as well. So those are the three: curiosity, courage, and compassion.
Oh, they're beautiful, mate. I love those. That is you to a T, definitely. All right. So give me your highlight of your career and your low light of your career so far.
So that's a tough question. Highlights.
I mean, we could have said it
I
was when you hung out with Steve and I at in Sydney, but no,
Yeah, so we went to Frankie's before it closed
Frankie's. Yeah.
down, which is
Oh
which
no,
is
it's closed down. For those listening, Frankie's was this super. It wasn't dodgy. It was like a little bar at the bottom of a building somewhere in Sydney with lots of stuff and dodgy pizza and lots of pinball machines. So it's a
it
cool
was
place.
it was a very fun time, very fun time.
Yeah,
Great pizzas, very sticky floors, I remember.
yeah, very loud.
Yeah, we're always like, what?
What?
What are you
What?
saying? What? Um, Honestly, like there's no like one, like sure, like we've launched successful programs, and like there's been years where we've really like smashed our revenue targets, but I wouldn't say that's been what I'm most proud of. I think what I'm most proud of is like the feeling of working as part of a team and overcoming a challenging thing. And it could be winning a compete deal that was very difficult, or it could be, um, helping a customer go live and seeing that sort of end to end. But it's always kind of the team that was part of it and how we overcame it together. Like that's probably the highlight. Is just working as part of a team that does cool things and overcomes challenges. And lowlights, I don't know if there's anything that I would pinpoint as a low light so far. I think um, there's been times where there's been hard problems that we've had to solve, or even like in years where we don't deliver to budget, and that's, it's very intense, when you're in a business that's red. But I wouldn't call it a career low light or anything. I think like diamond, what do I say, like diamonds create pressure. So I think you often you learn more when things aren't working well than when everything is green. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Last question for you. What is one piece of advice you would give anyone looking to achieve similar goals to you?
I would say stay curious. Um, Yeah, just I think go into things with eyes wide open. The other thing I always say is assume positive intent. I think we work in a very fast-paced environment, and I think when you work in the tech industry and at Microsoft, sometimes things can get very intense, and you know, things can get very stressful certain times of year. Um, and so I always just say, like, assume positive intent. Like, people don't wait. Like, you might be in a meeting and someone says something and it feels bad. And like, I think if you assume positive intent, it's like people didn't wake up trying to ruin your day or trying to make you not feel great. And so I think give people the benefit of the doubt. Um, and yeah, and I think, sometimes, there are certain scenarios where sometimes people are just jerks, but in most cases, people are all trying their best. And so coming from a place of curiosity, of empathy, and building that trust in the people you work with, I think that matters a lot.
That's good advice, mate.
Yeah.
All right, Lizzie, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking out the time.
Thank you so much for having me, George. It's an honor to finally be part of Synthesis. Thanks for
Oh,
having me.
yes. Yeah, appreciate it, mate. And for everyone else, thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of Synthesis. If you would like to see more videos, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Or follow if you are listening on a podcast platform to support the channel and join our community.